My name is Muniba Mazari. Once upon a time, my life was just like anyone else's, full of dreams, hopes, and smiles. But in 2007, a car accident changed everything. That accident left me with a spinal cord injury, and I was confined to a wheelchair for the rest of my life. At that moment, I felt as if my world had ended. My dreams were shattered, I could no longer walk, and all I could see around me was darkness. But then I realized, life doesn't stop. If I gave up, everything truly would be over. So, I chose to turn my pain into strength. I started painting, pouring my emotions onto the canvas. Slowly, I began to understand that the real beauty of life lies in our perspective. Today, people call me the Iron Lady of Pakistan. I am an artist, a motivational speaker, and above all, a woman who wants every person, whether man, woman, or child, to understand this: love yourself, accept yourself. Life may not be perfect, but it can always be made beautiful. My story carries one simple message: never let your wheelchair, your struggles, or your weaknesses define you. They can become your strength. Remember, after every storm, there is always rain, and after every night, there is always dawn. Create your own light, because the world needs it. In 2007, I was traveling with my then-husband from Quetta to Rahim Yar Khan. It was early morning, and he fell asleep while driving. The car went out of control and crashed into a ditch. In that one moment, my whole life changed. My arm was crushed, my wrist fractured, my ribs broken, collarbone shattered, and most importantly, my spinal cord was badly injured. That injury left me paralyzed from the waist down. I still remember lying there, unable to move, with a storm of thoughts in my head. I was only 21, full of dreams, and suddenly I was told I would never walk again, never become a mother, never live the life I had imagined. It felt like everything had ended right there. But later, I realized that accident was not the end of my story, it was the beginning of a new one. It broke me physically, but it gave birth to a stronger version of me, a woman who today inspires others not to give up. After the accident, when the doctors told me that I would never walk again, I felt my world collapse. I was only 21. I had so many dreams: to travel, to live freely, to start a family. And suddenly, all of that was taken away in just a few seconds. I remember lying on that hospital bed, unable to move, staring at the ceiling for days. People around me tried to comfort me, but inside I was breaking. I would ask myself, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Hopelessness crept in like a shadow. I felt useless, dependent, and trapped in a body that would never be the same again. Depression became my closest companion. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk. At times, I even thought, what's the point of living like this? The hardest part was not the physical pain, but the emotional one, the silence of the nights, when my thoughts screamed louder than any sound. The feeling that I was a burden, that my life had lost meaning. That was the darkest phase of my journey. But it was in that darkness that I discovered a spark. Slowly, I realized that if I kept drowning in my pain, I would never rise again. And if I couldn't walk, maybe I could still fly, with my art, with my words, with my resilience. It was not easy. It took years. But I learned that sometimes, life breaks you so that you can rebuild yourself into someone even stronger. After my accident, the pain of people's words often hurt more than the pain of my injuries. When you're on a wheelchair, society doesn't always see your courage, they see your limitations. I remember people whispering, "Who will marry her now? She is broken." Some said, "She will always be a burden on her family." Others would look at me with pity, as if my life was already over. And then there were those cruel comments: "What kind of woman is she if she can't walk, if she can't become a mother?" At first, every word pierced my heart. I would cry silently, wondering if they were right. Their negativity pushed me deeper into depression. I felt like an outcast, unwanted and incomplete. But then, I realized something. People will always talk. They will always judge. If I let their words define me, I will never move forward. So I made a choice. I decided to turn their criticism into fuel. Instead of proving them wrong, I focused on proving myself right. Today, when those same people see me painting, speaking on stages, inspiring thousands, I know I have answered them, not with anger, but with success. Their negativity became the fire that lit up my journey. While lying on that hospital bed for months, I felt trapped. My body refused to move, my dreams were slipping away, and depression was consuming me. One day, my doctor suggested I try doing something with my hands, something to distract my mind from the pain. That's when I picked up a paintbrush. At first, my strokes were shaky, uncertain, just like my life at that time. But slowly, colors started filling the blank canvas, and for the first time after my accident, I felt alive. Painting became my therapy. Every brushstroke carried my fears, my tears, my unspoken words. I started painting the world I could no longer walk into, the flowers, the skies, the freedom. Through art, I began to rebuild myself. My pain turned into colors, my silence turned into shapes, and my hopelessness slowly transformed into hope. That was the beginning of my new journey. What I thought was the end of my life actually became a fresh start. Art gave me a voice when I had none, and a purpose when I felt worthless. It opened doors I never imagined, exhibitions, recognition, and eventually, a platform to inspire others. Art was not just about painting for me, it was about healing. It was proof that even when life breaks your body, your soul can still create beauty. Art gave me a new beginning, but life had more surprises waiting. When people saw my paintings, they also saw my story behind them, the story of pain, courage, and survival. That story became my strength. Soon, I was invited to speak on television. I became a TV host, sharing not just my journey but also the stories of others who were fighting their own battles. Sitting in that studio, I realized the power of words. My wheelchair was not a symbol of weakness anymore, it was a stage from where I could reach hearts. One invitation led to another. I began speaking at schools, universities, and conferences. I stood on stages in front of thousands, telling them, yes, I am broken, but I am beautifully broken. And you, too, can rise from your struggles. Those speeches gave me a purpose bigger than myself. My work as an artist and speaker eventually caught international attention. In 2015, I was honored to become the National Ambassador for UN Women Pakistan. That role gave me the chance to raise my voice for gender equality, for women's empowerment, and for those who are often silenced by society. From a hospital bed, to a canvas, to television, and then to the United Nations, my journey was proof that sometimes life breaks you to rebuild you into someone far stronger than you ever imagined. Today, I am proud to be called the Iron Lady of Pakistan, not because I never fell, but because I chose to rise every time I did. After the accident, the hardest feeling was loneliness. I often thought I had become a burden on my family. But with time, I realized that my home was my greatest strength. My mother became my anchor. Her prayers, her strength, and her constant presence kept me alive. Whenever I broke down, she was there to hold me together. My brothers and family members stood by me like a wall, never letting me feel abandoned or unwanted. And then, a new light entered my life, my son. He gave me a reason to live again. His smile, his innocence, his unconditional love filled my heart with hope. Whenever I look at him, I feel I can face the whole world. He reminded me that I was not weak, I was strong enough to nurture and inspire another life. Today I believe a home is not just walls and a roof. A home is where love becomes your shield, where family turns into your power. My mother's courage and my son's love made me the woman the world now calls the Iron Lady of Pakistan. People often ask me, what kept you going? The answer is simple: self-belief and resilience. There was a time when I lost everything, my health, my dreams, even my will to live. I was told I could never walk, never become a mother, never live a normal life again. For a while, I believed them. I let despair take over. But then, I realized, if I stop believing in myself, no one else will believe in me either. That day, I decided to change the story. I told myself, Muniba, you are more than your pain. You are more than your wheelchair. You are more than what people say about you. That is self-belief, choosing to trust yourself when everything around you tells you not to. Resilience came when I stood up emotionally, even if I could not stand physically. Every time life tried to break me, I reminded myself, this is not the end, it's just a bend. I turned my scars into art, my silence into words, and my tears into strength. So, the lesson I have learned is this: if you believe in yourself and stay resilient, life cannot defeat you. It may shake you, it may break you for a while, but it cannot stop you, because real strength always comes from within. After my accident, I had every reason to complain. I could have spent my life asking, why me? But the moment I shifted that question to why not me? That's when gratitude entered my life. Gratitude changed everything. Instead of crying over what I had lost, I started appreciating what I still had. I couldn't walk, but I could still paint. I couldn't run, but I could still dream. I couldn't change the past, but I could still create a future. I began to thank life for small blessings: my mother's strength, my son's smile, the gift of another morning to wake up and try again. Gratitude didn't take away my pain, but it gave me the courage to live with it. You see, gratitude is powerful because it shifts your focus. It teaches you to stop counting what is missing and start celebrating what is present. It turns scars into stories, pain into purpose, and limitations into lessons. Today, I can say with certainty, I am not strong because I faced difficulties. I am strong because I learned to be grateful in the middle of them. Gratitude is not about having a perfect life, it's about finding perfection in the imperfect life you already have. People often told me that I was incomplete. They said my scars were ugly, that my wheelchair was a sign of weakness, that I could never be perfect again. For a long time, I believed them. I used to hide my scars, I used to feel ashamed of my imperfections. But then, I realized something important: perfection is an illusion. No one in this world is perfect. What makes us beautiful are our flaws, our struggles, our unique journeys. My scars are not my weakness, they are proof that I survived. My wheelchair is not my limitation, it is my strength, my identity. The day I embraced my imperfections, I became free. Free from people's judgments, free from the fear of not being enough. I started loving myself as I am, not as the world wanted me to be. Embracing imperfections is not about ignoring your flaws, it's about owning them with pride. When you accept yourself fully, you stop seeking validation from others. And that's when true confidence begins. So today, I say this with all my heart: I am beautifully imperfect, and that is my greatest power. Because our imperfections are what make us human, and our acceptance of them is what makes us extraordinary. All my life, I have seen how women are told what they cannot do. Society puts labels, sets limits, and builds invisible walls around us. After my accident, people said to me, she is just a woman, and now she is disabled too. What can she possibly achieve? But I believe women are far stronger than the world gives them credit for. Empowerment begins the day a woman realizes she is not weak, not dependent, not defined by others, but powerful in her own unique way. For me, empowerment was not about walking again, it was about standing tall in spirit. It was about raising my voice, not just for myself, but for every woman who has been silenced. That is why I chose to become an artist, a speaker, and later, the National Ambassador for UN Women Pakistan, to show that women are capable of leading, inspiring, and changing the world. Women empowerment is not about competing with men. It is about creating a world where women can dream freely, choose fearlessly, and live unapologetically. It is about giving women equal opportunities, but more than that, it is about reminding women of the power they already have inside them. So, to every woman listening, you are not less than. You are enough, just as you are. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. And when you rise, you give permission to countless other women to rise with you. You know, after my accident, I thought all my passions had died. I loved singing, I loved walking freely, I loved the little things that made me feel alive. And suddenly, all of that was gone. But then I found a new passion, painting. I still remember the first time I held a paintbrush in my hospital bed. My hands were trembling, my heart was heavy, but the moment colors touched the canvas, something inside me lit up. Painting became my escape. It became my voice when I had none. I painted the skies I could no longer walk under, the flowers I could no longer touch, and the freedom I could only dream of. Every stroke was a conversation with myself, every canvas was a piece of my soul. What started as a small hobby turned into a big passion, so big that it opened the doors of my new life. My art was displayed in exhibitions, it gave me recognition, and most importantly, it gave me healing. That's when I realized, sometimes life takes away the things you love, only to replace them with a passion you never knew you had. And that passion can become the reason you survive, the reason you grow, and the reason you inspire others.